All right, we're breaking in real quick because Nancy Pelosi is being sworn in, so we'll come back.
I will well and faithfully discharge the duties of the office upon which I am about to enter. So help me God. Congratulations, sir. Travel over to the White House to the President wanted to greet our new ambassador. Congratulate her. Thank you.
Thank you, everyone.
Can y'all sing a song?
Yeah. No, one of you to have chest pain or some kind of, so we can jump in. No, not really. But if you do, you're in the right crowd.
Even need for a band-aid.
There you go.
In case you were wondering, one of the people in the audience said, "Did you guys get talking points?" That was hilarious.
They don't have any cool nursing songs anyway. Nursing songs. There's a live Nursing's cool. We could save ourselves if our lives depended on it.
Just real quick, guys. I didn't even know this until I saw it right now. It says that Chelsea Handler, when asked, "Are you going to interview Melania at any time?" she said, "No, Melania, to talk about what? She can barely speak English." That's what that disgusting person said about the First Lady of the United States. If you guys want to see more about that, it's on Fox News, just FYI.
Don't say that.
Here we are. Good morning, everyone. Good morning. I think we can all agree that few people have a more intimate understanding of the stakes of the healthcare debate in people's lives than America's nurses. As Republicans forge ahead with their plan to repeal the Affordable Care Act and make America sick again, it is my privilege to be joined by nurses from across the country who stand on the front lines of America's healthcare. They're here to share their stories that show exactly what's at stake if Republicans succeed in destroying the Affordable Care Act in America. It's my honor to welcome Vicki Gonzalez of Miami, Florida, Michael Collins of Las Vegas, Nevada, Kathy Stoddard of Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, and Diane Palmer of Milwaukee, Wisconsin. It's now my pleasure to yield to Vicki Gonzalez from Miami, Florida. Vicki? And welcome all of our nurses who have joined us today. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you, and good morning, Speaker Pelosi. My name is Vicki Gonzalez, and I am a wound ostomy nurse at Jackson Memorial Hospital, Florida's largest public hospital. My heart is overjoyed when our patients get the care they need. Not too long ago, Jackson Memorial's emergency room was consistently flooded with individuals who lacked health care coverage and relied on emergency medicine for primary care. We can't turn them away, but emergency medicine costs 5 times more than a visit to the doctor's office. Far too often, uninsured individuals can't afford out-of-pocket charges that can easily exceed a month's rent. But with more patients covered and more of a safety net, my hospital can invest patient care dollars wisely. More patients have access to care regardless of pre-existing conditions. If Congress forges ahead and takes health care away from millions of Floridians, people throughout South Florida will be forced to rely on our emergency room services once again, and we'll go back to being in the red. Miami's robust entrepreneur community may not be able to afford whatever Republicans in Congress propose as an alternative. Of course, our taxpayers will shoulder the burden too. To paint a picture of how critical affordable care is to Miami-Dade community, just this month, a Miami Herald story showed that 3 congressional districts in South Florida have the highest number of people who purchased care on the health exchange in the nation. Clearly, patients need that care. We need Congress to put a real plan in place that ensures hospitals and healthcare professionals can serve our patients and our communities with the quality of care they need and deserve, not less. And now I'll introduce Michael Collins, registered nurse from Las Vegas.
Good morning.
Good morning, Michael.
Thank you, Speaker Pelosi. My name is Michael Collins. I'm a registered nurse at University Medical Center in Las Vegas, Nevada. University Medical Center is the only burn care center in the state of Nevada. It has the only level 1 trauma center in the state of Nevada and provides the only renal transplant center in the state of Nevada, and that's where I work. Before the Affordable Care Act, our hospital was chronically in debt to the tune of at least $180 million every fiscal year. We're mandated by state law to treat all who come to our doors, regardless of their ability to pay. Since the Affordable Care Act, we've been able to provide services and extend our outpatient services because we have turned a profit of over $35 million in the last 2 years. Now, with the repeal of the Affordable Care Act, more than 371,000 Nevadans stand a chance of losing their health care coverage. The leaders of the Republican Party are talking about taking away the Affordable Care Act, but there's no plan in place to replace it. I would like to know how they will keep deductibles and out-of-pocket cost low enough that our patients can continue to access our coverage. in their proposed plan. Since all of the patients that I work with have pre-existing conditions, can my patients count on coverage and not just be thrown to the side? Where will the chronically ill and injured patients that we see go when they're sick and unable to work and Medicaid has been slashed? Before rushing to rip apart a health care delivery system, President Trump, Republican Congress, owe us a real plan to make it better. My patients and all of our lives depend on that. Please, do not take our health care away. Now, my colleague, Kathy Stoddard.
Good morning. Speaker Pelosi, I'd like to thank you for working on behalf of millions of our patients. My name is Kathy Stoddard, and I want to thank you for this opportunity to speak in front of you today and tell you how the Affordable Care Act gives patients, families, including my own, health security and financial peace of mind. I'm a staff nurse at Allegheny General Hospital and a quality lean coach. The issue of pre-existing conditions impacts me not only professionally, but personally. You see, my son was born with a heart defect that required life-saving cardiac surgery. Our insurance did not cover all that was needed to diagnose and treat him, but not giving him the care he needed was not an option. We ended up putting his heart catheterizations, echocardiograms, and doctor's visits on credit cards. We always paid what we could, but those charges mounted and medical bills mounted, and after years and years of becoming more than we could ever pay in several lifetimes, we had no choice but to file bankruptcy. Any mother out there can tell you we never stop worrying about our children. My son is a college graduate, a registered nurse, and he can afford his own insurance, but like millions of others, he could have it taken away because of his pre-existing condition. As a mom and a nurse, I am very selective about how I spend the very little extra time that I have. But I am making sure that affordable health care is protected and expanded. Making sure that it is protected and expanded is hugely important to me. And I will devote as much time as I have to making sure that those individuals, including my son, have the health care coverage that they deserve. I cannot see a world and an America with our patients being harmed because they have pre-existing conditions and are barred from the care that they need. My fellow nurses and I are determined to ensure that no family will ever have to go with the kind of experience that my family had to. Patients deserve access to quality, affordable, safe health care. I would like to introduce a registered nurse, Diane Palmer, Chair of the Nurse Alliance and Vice President of SEIU. Diane?
Hi, I'm Diane Palmer. Thank you, Speaker Pelosi. As chair of the Nurse Alliance of SEIU Healthcare, I am here today representing 85,000 nurses who work directly with patients and families in hospitals, community-based and public health settings. Together with our SEIU sisters and brothers, we fought for comprehensive health care for decades, including the expansion of Medicaid that has helped 22 million Americans gain health care, many for the first time. Now, President Trump, his corporate cabinet, and Republican leaders in Congress want to take away health security for 30 million hardworking women and men and their children and grandparents, and send our healthcare system into crisis. I'm here to say that nurses will not let that happen. Republicans need to present a real plan that will show how they plan to make quality health care more affordable and to ensure that no one who has care today loses that care. We nurses will be ready to ask the hard questions needed to make sure any proposal that is offered doesn't take away care that Americans are counting on, doesn't increase health care costs for hardworking women and men, doesn't allow corporations to drop coverage for their employees, doesn't raise taxes on the middle class, doesn't risk care for seniors, children, and people with disabilities, and doesn't leave our patients to fend for themselves. Thank you.
I thank our guests for their presentations, the testimony that they have given us. I thank all of the nurses who are here for the service they provide, the leadership that they give us, telling their stories across the country. When we passed the Affordable Care Act, the nurses across the country were an important part of our pushing open that gate that was a barrier to passing the bill. I thank you for that. Vicki, thank you for making it clear how much more expensive emergency care is. Michael, that every one of your patients has a pre-existing condition. Kathy talking about her personal story as well as her professional experience with a pre-existing condition and the cost and the debilitating impact it can have on a family to have a pre-existing condition and not have the health care that health insurance that they should have. Thank you for that, Kathy. And Diane, thank you for emphasizing Medicaid, because that's so important to the Affordable Care Act. People don't understand that Medicare, Medicaid, and the Affordable Care Act are now wedded together. If you overturn and repeal the Affordable Care Act, you have a negative impact on Medicaid at a time when people need it more than ever. The Medicaid is not just about helping working moms, lower income working moms and families be able to work and have health care for their families, not only about seniors. 50% of the cost of long-term care in hospital in facilities is paid for by Medicaid. Medicaid for that working families, Medicaid for our seniors, middle-class seniors who have paid down their assets. Our nursing homes, Medicaid is there for them, so everyone is affected by it. And of course now with the opioid, as one example of a crisis, the Medicaid, the governor of Ohio, Governor Casey, said, thank God for Medicaid, in fighting a Republican governor of Ohio. So that is so very, very important as well. The power of the stories that you have told is multiplied by the statistics and the facts. The facts, the real, true facts. Last week, don't take it from me, the facts coming from the Congressional Budget Office, whose director is appointed by a Republican speaker, stated that repealing the ACA will double premiums for Americans in the individual market by 2026, would increase the number of uninsured by 18 million people in the first year of enactment, and surge to 32 million people by 2026, the Congressional Budget Office. And now you've mentioned the situation with hospitals. Hospitals will also be devastated, Michael talked about this, by ACA repeal, because they would be left with uncompensated care to the tune of billions of dollars. You know, hospitals are the one entity where you have to provide care if someone comes in, even if you're not compensated for it. And the Affordable Care Act addressed that, creating jobs and opportunity in areas. Someone told me a story yesterday of a hospital that's going to have to close down if the Affordable Care Act prevails, if they don't have Medicaid and the uncompensated care part of it. How do you attract business to a region that doesn't have a hospital? When we're talking about the vitality of rural America, you have to have human infrastructure as well as physical infrastructure there. Hospitals, again, would be devastated because they'd be left with the uncompensated care. The resulting job loss with funding cuts would bring economic harm to the communities, and it would increase the deficit. So, narrow access, increase cost, and reduce benefits, cut jobs, and increase the deficit. Repeal would kill nearly 3 million jobs, not only in healthcare, but in every sector affected, from construction to real estate to retail. This weekend, perhaps you were there, 10 of my family members marched, both in East Coast, West Coast, some in Washington, I with more members of my family in San Francisco, into the driving rain, but it did not dampen anyone's spirits. And the more it rained, the more vocal we became about vote, volunteer, run. This weekend, millions of Americans gathered across the country in an awesome, peaceful show of power in support of women's rights and women's health, among other things. Last Friday, January 20th, we saw the peaceful transfer of power, inaugurating a new president. The next morning, America awakened to peaceful show of power, where women across the country, indeed across the world, turned out in the millions in crowds that dwarfed the inaugural crowds. On days after, the President and the Republican Congress launched a major assault on women's access to comprehensive health care, not only here in America, but around the world. On Monday, the Trump administration reinstated the global gag rule that silences even the discussion of women's reproductive choices. Yesterday, House Republicans passed an expanded and even more dangerous version of the Hyde Amendment that would restrict how women with private insurance can spend their private dollars in purchasing health coverage. So here we are. And of course, they have begun their repeal of the Affordable Care Act. And the facts are these about that. Not only is it about the 20 million people who we proudly and take great pride in saying at least 20 million more people have access to health care, but 150 million people who get their health care coverage in the workplace. Under the Affordable Care Act, 150 million people, in addition to the 20 million, and their families, will no longer be, under the Affordable Care Act, no longer be subjected to lifetime limits or annual limits on their care, no longer be subject to discrimination because of a pre-existing medical condition. Their children can stay on their policy until 26 years old, and back to the march, no longer will being a woman being a pre-existing medical condition. The American people are waking up to the nightmare of what Republicans have planned for the health care of women, seniors, and working families. Democrats will stand our ground to defend the Affordable Care Act because we believe, I think we can all attest, that we believe that health care in America is a right for everyone, not just for the privileged few. I thank again the nurses for joining us today and for your leadership in caring for America. The testimony that you bring is intimate, it's personal, it's policy, it has policy ramifications. You help us make the case, and we're very grateful to you for that. Thank you so much. Thank you all. You may want to step aside when I have to take questions on some other subjects. But first, let us, again, I thank you for coming. Thank you. We'd like to confine the questions first to the subject at hand. Yes, ma'am.
There are, yesterday, Cassidy and Senator Collins plan to replace the Obamacare Patient Freedom Act of 2017. And in that, they even say that states can keep the Obamacare shape if they want to. Also, Rand Paul has put out a plan to replace Obamacare, and I keep hearing that there is no plan to replace it.
Well, in other words, what others have said on the Republican side of the aisle is that I believe even the chairman of the Health Committee, Chairman Alexander, that they really can't act unless they see something from the President of the United States, his proposal. So while individuals may have some suggestions, we have to see what is their proposal. What we have said as a standard is that the goals that were set by the Affordable Care Act were to improve quality of care, expand access, and reduce cost. Any proposal that they would present would have to stay on that course, which the Affordable Care Act has been very successful in achieving. So when we see something, we can, obviously, if they have a good idea, we'd like to hear what it is, and we'd like to work together. But right now, we are fighting the repeal of the Affordable Care Act in the absence of one of the plans you didn't mention, but one of the proposals of the nominee for HHS, Mr. Price, was to give a $3,000 tax credit, is it? And yesterday, a couple of days ago in the Budget Committee, the Urban Institute testified that under his plan, America's families would be subjected to a $50,000 deductible, individual $25,000 deductible. So there are a lot of things out there. I don't know who's speaking for what, but even the chairman of their committee has said that they want to see something from the president. Yes, ma'am.
What is your reaction?
You know, there is no evidence to support what the president has said, and I think we made that really clear to him in our conversations with him. But I'm very pleased that our colleagues, Mr. Cummings, Mr. Clyburn, and who else? And Brady, the ranking member on the House Administration Committee, three leaders in the Congress, have sent a letter to all of the attorneys general across the country, any place that votes for the president, and including the District of Columbia, and saying, give us the names of anyone that you suspect is guilty of voter fraud. Because the fact is that it's so. Let me just say it another way. When Jill Stein was making her case about voter irregularities, wanting to have, following the election, the lawyers for Donald Trump testified that there was no voter fraud to justify her request for a recount. So that's kind of where that is. No, it is, for a person who is the newly elected president of the United States to be so insecure as to declare that he's now the president, he's ensconced in the White House, and he's saying, I won the popular vote, and 3 to 5 million Americans voted illegally in our country, to suggest and to undermine the integrity of our voting system is really strange. But in addition to that, on top of it, he wants to investigate something that can clearly be proven to be false, but he resists any investigation of the Russian disruption of our election and any connection to his campaign. All we want is the truth for the American people. I frankly feel very sad about the president making this claim. I felt sorry for him. I even prayed for him. But then I prayed for the United States of America. Any other questions? Yes, ma'am.
What is your response to the anticipated executive orders from President Trump on immigration and refugee settlement?
Well, we haven't seen exactly what everything that he's going to do. I think he's going to Department of Homeland Security today, and we'll see we hear rumors of what he might say, but I have always opposed any policy that excluded people on the basis of their religion. And many of the refugees coming to the United States from Syria who might be Muslim, which is part of his target, are women and children, and I don't know that that's what the American people really think is our value system. However, some of what he says will have its popular appeal because the immigration was an issue that he fueled the flame in his campaign. Let's see. Just a minute. Any of you guys who are on the trail, on the beat? No? Okay. Yes, ma'am.
Leader Pelosi, are there divisions among Democrats right now between people calling on leadership to work as well as they can with Republicans versus people pushing Democratic leadership to be more liberal, especially after the losses that...
No, there's not a division. No, we have said if the Republicans, obviously we pledge to the American people a responsibility to find common ground with the Republicans, as we did with President Bush, even though we disagreed with him in the war in Iraq and privatizing Social Security and won at the polls opposing him on that. When we came together afterward, we worked together on many issues. We stand ready to do that. Where if they want to have a real infrastructure proposal, not a tax break for wealthy people disguised as an infrastructure proposal. They want to talk about home and family and work balance, which they spoke about in the campaign. We look forward to working with them. As I said in opening day, gavel speech, as I gave the gavel to Speaker Ryan, and other issues where we might find common ground. But when we don't find common ground, we'll stand our ground on the Affordable Care Act. We are standing our ground. But there's no division. No. Yes. Yeah. Over here.
We plan to freeze federal hiring.
Excuse me?
On President Trump's announcement to freeze federal hiring.
Yes, yes.
Do you guys have a plan to fight that? And
Yes.
specifically, how does it affect the VA? Because I know that Washington is working at a bipartisan level to staff the
Yes, the freeze on hiring, which it was really unfortunate, because what that is to say we don't believe in the government role to meet the needs of the American people. So when they attack the workers, they're attacking what they do, making sure people get their Social Security checks, meeting the needs of our veterans, Medicare, the list goes on. And so when they did this freeze, they said we exempt national security, but that did not include veterans. So right now, one of my colleagues has said in the hospital in his area, Veterans Hospital, they were hoping to hire 3 cardiologists, which they cannot do now because there's a freeze on hiring. They can't hire people who give you the scalpel. You know, it's not only the cardiologist, it's the people who assist in providing health care for our veterans as one example that is wrong. But it's always been part of their kind of agenda to say, we want to reduce the federal workforce so we can privatize a lot of the services, then we don't have to honor any value of diversity or workers' rights and the rest of that. So I think that they will see some bipartisan opposition to what they are doing, because many federal employees work in the districts of Republicans as well as Democrats. But this is an assault on doing our job for the American people, but it is not any surprise. Yes, ma'am. On that subject?
Back to HRC. What do you say to your Catholic constituents who may be relieved to no longer know that their tax dollars will go to fund abortion?
Let me just say this. I'm a Catholic. I have 5 children in 6 years. Anybody have standing on the issue? And I think that there has not been taxpayer dollars spent on abortions. You know that. So this is fraudulent. It's fraudulent, and what they're doing is making it more dangerous so that people can't spend their own dollars in the exchanges to have access to reproductive rights. So we will fight that, and my constituents support that. Yeah.
Have you talked to Congresswoman Gabbard since she got back from
No, I haven't. I haven't even seen her.
What kind of message does this
I haven't seen her. I don't know. I have no knowledge of the trip. We've been very busy. I haven't seen her. So
have an opinion on a lawmaker taking a trip like that without even giving you guys a
I don't know any of the particulars of it. I don't know the basis of the invitation. I don't know the auspices under which she went. I don't know, and she hasn't reported anything to our office as far as I know. So when I know more about it, I'll have something to say about it. Yes. Yeah. Oh.
Speaking to the media, but also the withdrawal of some climate references, taking down the climate change pages.
Yeah.
Are you aware of these actions that are going on in the administration? What can Democrats do about it?
Well, what can the American people do about it? You know, there has always, we have said, and I said in my opening day speech here, if you want to silence our voices for common sense gun violence prevention, we will fight that. You cannot silence people's voices. And it is a deterioration of intellectual resources to prevent information to flow. That's what has made America great, that we are open, we listen to ideas, we exchange them, and any country that doesn't does so to their own detriment. So I would hope that the press would be a very important part of calling out how unfair this is to even have information available to the press, because I do believe, although we don't always agree on your coverage, as President Obama said, that the true guardian of our democracy is the freedom of the press that is in the First Amendment. That is the most important freedom, because that says we can speak, people will know truth and freedom. The truth will set us free. And so what they're doing should be just appalling to people if they knew about it, but they shouldn't be doing that. Well, we'll see what we'll do. I mean, do you think they care about a letter? I think it's more about public sentiment. As Abraham Lincoln said, public sentiment is everything. With it, you can do almost everything. Without it, almost nothing. So it's about public sentiment. They probably wouldn't even respond to a letter because they don't want information. They want information. We were chatting earlier this morning. I was saying that George Bernard Shaw once said that a true sign of a truly intelligent person is that he or she is, he said he, is swayed by statistics. And so they seem to be happy to be in a fact-free zone where even their own Republican, and I did ask the president to read the CBO report before we could talk about the Affordable Care Act. So we've always had, dealing with President Bush, dealing with the Republicans across the aisle, we've always had sort of I don't want to say tradition, but a standard where you agree to a set of facts or some numbers or a baseline, and then you go from there. We respect each other's opinion. We respect the position that someone might have, be more conservative, more progressive. That's the American way. But at least when you try to negotiate, you're dealing from a set of facts instead of being in a fact-free zone or whatever they want to call their version of reality. Yes, Dan.
Along those lines, you've met the president a couple of times. We've seen a few days of the new administration. Do you have any new ideas on how you will confront them as you're thinking about on that?
Well, it's interesting because I saw him at the inauguration, and we had a chance to chat at the White House coffee or tea, whatever, before we came to the Capitol, and talked about how we could find common ground on infrastructure, and I hope that that is the case. Then the invitation for the leadership to come to the White House and bond, I guess is probably what it was welcome. And because, again, we don't have to agree on everything to agree on some things, right? But it was really quite startling when the president declared that he won the popular vote because 3 to 5 million people voted illegally in our country, which was not fact-based and evidence-based. But in addition to that, I had the impression that he was saying, Carolyn, that didn't even include California. So again, we have to stipulate to a set of facts if we're going to talk about infrastructure, if we're going to talk about child care, if we're going to talk about early childhood education, we have to stipulate to those facts. I did tell him that when President, as I mentioned earlier, we had
All right, guys, we have to prepare for streams later on today that have actually some importance other than this person just rambling and lying and rambling and lying. So for today, we have quite a few things going. We are going to be streaming the press briefing from Press Secretary Sean Spicer. That will be coming later on today, so stay tuned for that. Also, there's a few things going on. President Trump actually tweeted last night or this morning, either or, about Chicago. He is saying that if Chicago doesn't get their shit straight and if the shootings don't calm down, he's going to send in the feds. And Chicago PD already came out and said that they are more than willing to allow the president to bring in the feds. And by the feds, I really don't know what he means about the feds, but he's bringing in the National Guard. That's what I think. And Chicago PD said, yes, we will help you to bring down crime. So they're going to do crackdowns in Chicago. Now, the next thing is today is the day that he is going to sign a few executive orders. One of them has to do with immigration. And it says that the number one executive order is going to detail more detention space for illegal aliens along the Mexican border, eliminate so-called catch and release, prioritize prosecution for criminal offenses. And then the second executive order is going to entail withhold certain federal funding from sanctuary cities, enhance ICE ability to arrest, detain, and remove illegal aliens, and give State Department more tools to repatriate criminal illegal aliens, and restore secure community program, target criminal aliens for removal. So I guess they're going to start picking up all of the illegal aliens that have any type of record, whether they're in jail right now or have been in the past. I wish that would include traffic offenses also. And here in state California is perfect because they know where every single illegal is because the Democrats gave them a driver's license. So with giving them a driver's license, now they have exactly where they live, how long they've been living there, who's their family members, who's their kids, every single piece of information they're actually going to need. So they basically doxed themselves, and I thought that was the most hilarious thing I've ever seen. But I actually knew about that when they first implemented it here in California. I was just like, they're just literally doxing them. They're getting them all round up, and when the time comes, they're gonna strike, and here we go. Here's where it is. So yeah, guys, there's gonna be a few streams going on today, so we're gonna shut down. And we'll be up in just maybe a few minutes, maybe an hour. I don't know yet, but we'll be back up. So make sure that you click the subscribe button if you haven't yet. If you're already subscribed, just click the notification bell right next to the subscribe button. That'll give you the heads up that we are live, and we hope to see you guys here next time. And let's see real quick before I get off of the mic here. Was that it that I wanted to say? I think there's one more thing. Give me 1 second here. Let's see. Screen. Nope, that's it. All right, for now, that's it. We hope to see you guys here next time. But until then, peace. Don't forget that we are streaming all day today, basically, until the government is off. So don't go anywhere.